Assalamu alaikum. This video, perhaps this very short video, I will just begin with with some insights into the chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah. Now, before I go into details, I just want to lay down why am I really choosing Surah At-Tawbah in these particular videos. The reason I have chosen Surah At-Tawbah from the beginning is because of one particular verse. And that particular verse has really become, in recent history at least, the most controversial verse in the whole entire Quran. And in fact, it has become a problem, actually, to try to present a good image of Islam. And the problem being is because according to the jurist, the Muslim jurist, or the Sharia law, so-called the Sharia law, they legislated a specific provision or law, they call it Islamic law, known to be the law of Al-Jyzia. Al-Jyzia is something that Muslim armies, when they go to conquer other lands, and then the other land people get defeated, so they have to surrender to the winning army, and that is the Muslim army. So then the population of the non-Muslim will have faced two options. Number one is either to embrace Islam and no consequences to that, or they get to keep their religion, or not to embrace Islam at least. In return, they have to pay a tax amount that is called jizya. Otherwise, they will face death. That is not in the Quran, by the way. This is basically under the umbrella of the so-called Sharia law. Now, I'm not here to bash the Sharia law. That's not my business. Let Muslims decide what are these laws or where they come from. But as far as I know, and I can say it with full strength of knowledge and science of the Quran, that this is not a Quranic provision. This is not a Quranic Sharia law. Absolutely not. And the challenge is put to everyone out there. Now, people ask, why is it really this Muslim Sharia law has become a very major part of our Sharia laws? The only thing I could say, really, based on my research on the origin of this particular ruling, it really goes back the moment when the Muslim armies became very powerful and they started to conquer the world. In other words, they practice imperialism. Some people say it may be expansion of the good message of Islam. You could call it whatever you want. But as far as I am concerned, the ruling has really emerged as a necessity tool to deal with the new situation when they conquer foreign lands. So they have to deal with the population that they start to conquer, and they need to deal with them in terms of dealing and wheeling transactions, their future, their education, and so on. So they come up with this idea to give a legitimate rule or legitimacy to their rule over those people. So they come up with this idea of jizya. But is it Quranic? Absolutely not. And I'll explain to you why it's not. And that is why the reason I chose Surah At-Tawbah, because Al-Jyzia ayah, I believe is verse 29 in Surah At-Tawbah, is actually in the Tawbah. So common sense tells me, in order for me to fully understand the deep dimension or the true meaning of this particular verse, which has been used as a backbone for the ruling of Al-Jyzia in the Muslim Sharia law. And by knowing the surah, at least knowing the purpose, the foundation, the historical backgrounds of it, all these elements of the Surah 9, I think will give us a clear understanding and of the Jizya, so-called the Jizya ayah. Now, Surah At-Tawbah is number 9 among the Quranic verses, and I'm not getting into details. When was it revealed? Is it Makkiyah? Or is it in Mecca? Or is it, well, there's a debate about this, but really irrelevant where it was revealed. It is revealed to us, that's it. Some people say that is some of the verses revealed in Medina and the rest is Mecca and vice versa. It's non-agreeable concept, but it's regardless irrelevant where it was revealed, as long as we know it has been revealed from the realm of divine realm into the our world, and that's all we know, and that is a fact. So now let me begin by verse number 1, and that really says in Arabic. I'm going to recite it in Arabic, so those who would like to know more about the Arabic, they could perhaps pursue the idea of knowing more Arabic about this verse. So the first verse would say in Arabic, براءة من الله ورسوله إلى الذين عاهدتم من المشركين. Translation. Now I would like to say something before I go on translating these kind of verses. I think it is wrong to say these are translation, because a translation, this will convey to the readers that this is what really the meaning of the verse, which is not so, because if that is the case, then God would have revealed this Quran in all languages, but it was revealed in one Arabic language, so that is the text, the original text in which was revealed. So the translation, so-called English translations or other translations, are only a one dimension or one angle of the possible meanings of the Arabic original text. So please be aware of that. So if I'm going to read the translation to you, don't think this is a literal translation. This is actually a minute commentary, I would say, or interpretation, I think is more accurate, or one angle of interpretation of the original text. So the English interpretation, or one angle of the interpretation. And by the way, why do I say this? Because the translator, when they want to attempt to translate a text into English or any other language, they need to understand the Arabic text. So what do? They go to the tafsirs. And based on the tafsirs or the interpretations of the Quran, which are thousands or hundreds of them, based on those available tafsirs or interpretations of the Quran, and they all differ, some really agree with each other, but there's a multiple interpretations, then becomes the choice of the translator. Which one is he going to choose? He cannot list all of them. You're going to have one verse in Arabic, maybe have 25 pages of different interpretations. So what they do is they just give one possible closest interpretation. But you need to know the rendition of any Arabic text does not represent the Arabic text. Rather, it does represent maybe a dot, a minute of that huge mountain of meaning. So fair to say the translation of this fairly close enough, but not exact. It says a declaration of immunity from Allah and His Messenger to the associators with whom you had made the treaty. Now, very quick, obviously, if you read this particular verse without the historical background of the reason of this verse, you're going to say, why would God tell the Muslims, announces to the messenger and to his people that God considers the treaty that Muslims has with the idol worshippers are null and void? It makes you really wonder, so why would God take such a step or make an attempt to break a covenant, to break a treaty? Because the word says bara'atun. Bara'atun comes from Bara'a yabra'u bari. And bari in the legal terminologies, it means innocent. When you say somebody is convicted of something and then proven to be innocent, they say in Arabic he's bari from these crimes committed or accused crimes. So bari, it means free. And when you say I'm a bari from such person, that means I'm free of obligation from that person. Some people, some tribes use this particular term when they decided to disown an individual from their tribe. They declare their bara'a from that individual, so his blood becomes lawful to the other tribes. Anyway, so that is what the bara'a means. It means a free of obligation or declaration of immunity. I'm not sure if the English is really clear, but that is what the Arabic means. If you know the English, that's what it means, that's fine. Because my English is not 100% like the English-speaking people. So, bara'atu min Allah. So that tells you that God is free of obligation and also His messenger from the idol worshippers in respect to the treaties they have with them. Obviously, the reason for that, so this not an attempt was initiated by the Muslims or by God command to the Muslims to break a treaty. No, rather is based on in response to the non-Muslims or the idol worshippers or the enemies of Islam, let's say. They're the one who initiated the breaking of this treaty by collaborating with the others who has no treaty to attack the Muslims. So as far as Islam or as far as God and His Messenger are concerned, that anyone whom you have a treaty with, they begin or they initiate breaking the treaty by not abiding by its rules or by conditions. Then as far as you're concerned, you declare you're free of obligation from that treaty and you say, I'm no longer honoring this treaty just because of what you did. So you began it, so I have to declare that I am not obliged by abiding with this treaty. So even that God commanded His messenger to say, don't, even though you are obliged right now to break the treaty as a result of what they've done to you, or their behavior and their not keeping their side of the bargain. So God says, don't attack them right away. Give them some time. And the next verse will say, فَسِيحُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ غَيْرُ مُعْجِزِ اللَّهِ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ مُخْزِي الْكَافِرِينَ. So travel the land for 4 months and know that you cannot escape Allah and that Allah will disgrace the unbelievers. It's very clear. So it's telling the Muslims, even though they broke the treaty initially, and then you are free of obligation from that treaty, but you cannot go and bounce on them. That is, of course, in the context of war. So there was a peace treaty. The peace treaty was broken. Even that the Muslims were not allowed to go and attack suddenly the other side whom they broke the treaty initially. But Allah is giving them 4 months. He says, give them 4 months. And I will say in the next video, why would it be 4 months? And why God tell the Muslims to wait, give them some chance. With this, I thank you for the listening. Until next time.